welcome back. Today we are going to go over everything you need to know about riding trains in Japan, from JR, bullet trains to local. So make sure you watch to the end of the video to find out everything you need to know. But first, let's move to a bit quieter of a location. All right, you guys, we are back home now, and seriously, we are going to get super in-depth, so please watch the video until the end to make your trip to Japan as smooth as possible. Japanese trains are confusing. So for the first half, I'm going to be talking about the JR Rail Pass and bullet trains. And then in the second half, I'm going to talk more about like local trains. So first of all, the JR Rail Pass and bullet trains. So the JR Rail Pass is by far the most popular way for foreign tourists to get around Japan. It is a transportation pass that is valid on all JR trains in the country. And the pass is exclusively available to people in Japan on a foreign tourism visa. So foreign residents like me cannot get it, which is sad. And notably, among JR trains are all of the bullet trains or shinkansen. So you may ask, are all trains JR trains? No, they are not. I'm going to talk about that more in depth later on. So the JR Pass is available to purchase for lengths of 1, 2, or 3 weeks at a time. And you can either get like the ordinary version, or you could splurge and get like the green car seats, which are kind of like business class. And the JR Pass is all you can ride, unlimited. So you could ride the Shinkansen 20 times in a day if you wanted to. But there are a few things that foreign tourists always kind of mess up or don't realize about the pass, so I'd like to talk a bit about those. So probably the most common mistake is for foreign tourists to get the pass for far longer than they actually need it. In general, I would not recommend getting the pass unless you are actively riding bullet trains. So for example, if you're coming to Japan on like a 2-week vacation, but the first week you're only in Tokyo, and the second week you're going to be exploring like Kyoto, Osaka, etc., I would not get it for the first week. Probably. Local trains really aren't that expensive, and unless you're doing like a lot of expensive day trips out of the city, probably won't be worth it. But this is why it's so important to kind of plan out your itinerary before coming, so you can kind of do the math and see for yourself if it's worth getting or not. But in general, I really wouldn't unless you're on the bullet trains. Next, you should purchase the pass before arriving in Japan. Do not do this last minute, because what they do is they send a voucher to your home address abroad, and then when you get to Japan, you redeem that voucher for like the actual ticket that you can use. The voucher itself is not usable. You have to redeem it. And you can do this at the airport or at large stations. However, please allow yourself time to redeem it. There could be a lengthy line. I would budget 30 minutes to pick it up just to be safe, but you really don't know. I think you can get the JR Pass after coming to Japan too, but it costs more, but get it beforehand. Next, just having the pass itself will allow you access to unreserved seats on like bullet trains, etc. But it also allows you to reserve seats for free for most trains. And I highly recommend reserving seats if at all possible. You don't need to do this on like normal trains, but for like bullet trains and other like limited express or express trains, you may need to, and it will save you a lot of stress if you have a reserved seat. I mean, it's free, so just, yeah. And you can reserve seats either at the ticket machine, you just put the pass in the machine, or at a ticket window if you're not really comfortable with that, but allow time for that again. So in general, for like the bullet train, if you're getting on at like the first station on the route, you might not need to get the reserved seats. But if you are traveling at peak hours or weekends or holidays in Japan, I would highly recommend it for peace of mind, if nothing else. But if you are boarding the bullet train at like an in-between station on the route, I would definitely reserve the seat. So moving on, a very important point. So during the pandemic, JR began implementing luggage restrictions. Yay! If you're interested in learning more about how Japan changed during the pandemic, I have made a video that goes more in detail, so check that out. But one of the most important parts from that video is that there are now restrictions on the size of luggage you can bring on the bullet train. Basically, if the luggage cannot fit in the overhead like rack area, you need a reservation for it. So like carry-on sized and then like smaller, like medium-ish size luggage is probably going to be able to fit. If the total dimensions of the luggage are less than 160 centimeters, you don't need a reservation. Total dimension, that means length, width, length, width, height needs to be less than 160 centimeters. However, between 161 and up to 250 centimeters will require an advance reservation, because there is like an area at the back of the car that has, it's like a little skinny luggage area. And before now it had been a total free-for-all. Like you have to get there and just hope it's open, throw your luggage in there. If it's full, So the reservation would require you to reserve these seats that directly border the luggage area to allow you access to it. However, reserving in advance is free, so do it. However, say you're rushing, you have a last minute plan, you board the train without the reservation, you will supposedly be charged 1,000 yen. So it's like 10 bucks. It's not a huge amount of money. So I've gotten comments from people that like the staff aren't actually enforcing this rule, and that might be true. It might not be true for you. I personally wouldn't risk it, but what I expect to happen is that once tourism numbers really start ramping up again, because we're still like way less than we were 3 years ago, once people are really coming back, I think they're definitely going to be cracking down on this a lot more, so do be careful. Also note that any baggage over 250 centimeters total is not allowed, period. However, strollers and things like that do not apply to any of these. You don't need to reserve, you don't need to pay money. If you're a bit nervous about all this, I encourage you to look up luggage delivery services, where you could just like send your luggage through the mail courier to your next destination. It'll only take a day or two. I've spoken more about that in a different video as well. So finally, there are some exceptions to this pass. Notably, you cannot ride Nozomi bullet trains. No Nozomi. Nozomi. You'll have to pay the full fare, so be careful. So the Nozomi trains run between Tokyo and Hakata, so they're gonna stop in Osaka and Kyoto. So make sure you're getting on like Hikari trains, or just anything that's not Nozomi, because Nozomis are like the fastest ones with the least amount of stops. That's basically the only difference between them all. Just be careful of that. And if you're interested in buying a JR pass, I do have a link down below where you could buy the main JR rail pass or the regional JR rail passes, which they do have, which could be cheaper depending on where you're going. Before we hop into talking about the intricacies of riding local trains in Japan, let me introduce today's sponsor, Omiage. So Omiage is a really cool snack subscription service that ships directly out of Japan to your home. And what makes Omiage unique is not only that it includes more snacks per box than many other services, but that all the snacks come wrapped in a traditional Japanese furoshiki. So this is what your first box would look like. What we have inside is a booklet that describes all the snacks, what's in them, where they're from, and then all the snacks are wrapped in a furoshiki. I'm never gonna be able to retie this. You should definitely learn. It is like a craft. Wow! Oh, there's so many. Wow. We have so many good looking snacks. Okay, we have apple crisps. I know these are gonna be really good. We have a monaka. It says it's cheese cookies. Some sables, sable, is that how you say it? Sable? Mysterious. I'll have to consult the guide. Matcha cream rolls, mikan flavored something, maybe jelly. We have a really cute tin. It says from Kobe. And then we have 2 tea bags of green tea to enjoy with your snacks. I would like to now eat some. I am very confident in these tasting delicious. It even shows on the back how they make it. Oh, apple. Very good. It's just sweet enough. It's not overwhelming. Very satisfying snack. I want to open up this and see what's inside. Ooh. Oh, is it cookies? Oh my god, these things. I love these. See, they're like thin, like wafers with cream. Yummy! So as I just demonstrated, not only do you get really yummy snacks, you get Japanese tea, a furoshiki, and a guide of where the snacks are from to help inspire your next trip to Japan. What I really like about this box is that as opposed to other boxes, I think it focuses more on like what Japanese people actually eat here when they get like omiyage or souvenirs from a place they travel to. It's like, it's not as gimmicky, it's more like real. Like I actually eat this kind of stuff. Like when I worked at a school in the staff room, people would always bring this kind of thing. So if you really want to taste like what real Japan kind of tastes like through desserts and snacks, this is a really great box to get. It's a much more traditional and like cultural approach to the snack box. So check out the link down below in the description or in the comments to be able to get some of these snack boxes for yourself or as a gift to someone. You can conveniently order it from your phone or your computer, so just feel free to check it out. Feel like you're traveling Japan while you're just sitting in the comfort of your own home. All right, next, local trains. So I'm gonna mainly be focusing on Tokyo, but I'll also talk a bit about other places. So as I mentioned earlier, JR is actually not one big company or a government company. It is currently kind of a private company, and there are different companies for each region. So like Tokyo and Tohoku has JR East, while like JR West is for like Osaka, Kyoto, and JR trains tend to deal with like intercity travel, longer lines, while the cities themselves will operate like the metro. And this is why it doesn't really make sense for most people to get a JR pass when they're just going to be like staying in Tokyo, because most train lines are not actually JR trains at all in Tokyo. There are some, there are a lot, especially Yamanote line, big important train line in Tokyo. But let's keep it simple. So in Tokyo's case, there's basically 3 different kinds of trains that you need to think about. JR, the Tokyo Metro train line, so run by the government, and then just other private lines. There's like a lot. I'm not going to go into detail. It doesn't matter that much. But what you need to know is that when you move between different companies' service routes, the fare gets more expensive as you have to go through a transfer gate because different companies. But if you remain on 2 Tokyo Metro lines, say for example from the Namboku line to the Marunouchi line, it'll be cheaper. Changing lines between like different operators can be kind of annoying sometimes. And you might have to walk pretty far. And if you're using paper tickets, gets kind of complicated. So don't use paper tickets. Instead, I highly recommend you get a Suica card as soon as you can. So a Suica card is basically a transportation card. There are other like types of cards and names for cards, but I'm just going to talk about Suica. It's the main one, the big one. And you can use this card even if you buy it in Tokyo. You can use it all around the country. Wherever they accept an IC card, you can use the Suica card. However, you can't use the Suica card in places like a lot of countryside stations, but more on that later. But in addition to using the Suica card on trains, you can also use it like at convenience stores, some vending machines, even Starbucks, and you just tap it at the ticket gate when you enter the station. It's very simple. So basically right now there are 3 different kinds of Suica you can get. The first 2 are a welcome Suica, which is only for tourists, and a normal Suica. Both of these are physical cards that you load with money. The easiest way to load them with money is just going to be at a machine at the station. They'll say like Suica on it, pretty straightforward, put in money. So basically the welcome Suica and the normal Suica are kind of the same thing. However, the welcome Suica is only valid for 28 days, doesn't have a deposit required. However, it's non-refundable. So if you have like leftover balance on the card at the end of the trip, you can't get it off. But the cute design kind of makes it more suitable, I guess, for a souvenir. Though the normal one's good too. However, since the normal one is refundable, I'd probably recommend that one just in case, unless you're pretty good at, keeping the balance where you need it to be. I mean, they're both very similar, so just choose what you want. And you can get either of them at the airport or at any station, basically. The welcome Suica, I think you can only get from larger ones though. By the way, machines, if you have to like charge up the Suica, usually they have an English option in the corner, so just look for that. And then the third type of Suica is the mobile Suica. So if you have a non-Japanese Android phone, you can't use the mobile Suica, so get the card. However, if you have an iPhone from, I think most countries, I have an American iPhone, works fine, you can use it. And you could set it up before you come to Japan, which is pretty convenient, but I encourage you to look it up and how to do it if you're interested in that. Your iPhone just does need to be, I think, past iPhone 8 model, and you can also use it like on the Apple Watch and stuff, but it's up to you. So next, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, feeling lost, don't be afraid, ask an employee. In Tokyo, a lot of the employees are going to be able to speak enough English to kind of guide you, some better than others. But if you don't want to do that, make sure you just look out for signs both above you and below you on the floor. Just follow the line. But say you're struggling to figure out what exit you need to take, where the exit is, that's where apps can come in. So first of all, Google Maps. You probably already know how to use it. It's pretty straightforward. If you plug in your destination, it will tell you, depending on the train, which car to board and what exit to go to. And then another app is one my friend recently told me about called Japan Travel. I think this app is actually better for planning like train journeys, especially kind of complicated ones. It gives you a bunch of different options, the price, the exit, what car to board, etc. I'd highly recommend downloading it for yourself and just trying it out, seeing if you like it. But in general, I'd say Google Maps is better for walking directions, while Japan Travel might actually be better for trains. And do make sure you pay attention to what exit it says, especially at larger stations like Shibuya. If you go out the wrong exit, you could land yourself like 10 to 15 minutes away from where you actually need to be. So next, I want to talk about kind of general tips, things you need to be aware of. First, be careful. There are women-only train cars. Most of them are only going to be running during rush hour, but some run all day. Depends where you are. So just make sure, if you're a man, be careful. While we're talking about rush hour, you've seen the famous videos of people getting packed in the train like sardines, right? That's reality. I just did it yesterday. Sucked. However, usually this is only during rush hour. If you go like at noon, you're gonna be totally fine. Especially morning rush hour is when you'll actually see conductors pushing people in. Usually morning rush hour is like 7:30 to 9-ish, but it's mostly gonna be on trains coming into Tokyo from the suburbs. But even if you take like the evening rush hour trains, which are like 5 to 7, like I did yesterday, there might not be a conductor, but it's tight. You're like literally pushed with people surrounding you completely, like 1 inch of space. It is more manageable, however, than morning rush hour, but really be careful, especially if you have strollers or anything like that. It will be really hard to board a train. Like yesterday, I saw like 3 women with strollers. They just couldn't board the train because there's no space. However, Japanese women usually don't make this mistake because they are aware of it. Every woman I see trying to board the train with a stroller is a tourist usually, so do be careful. Let's say you do find yourself on a crowded train. It is polite to wear the backpack in front of you, not for thieves or anything, but just to create more space in the car, because that is how tight it is. And when you do sit down, just be careful you're not sitting in priority seating unless you need it. It will say in English, at least in Tokyo, if it's a priority seat. Usually it's just going to be like right at the end of the car. These seats are for like elderly people, disabled people, pregnant people, etc. And while it's fine to sit there if there's like a lot of open seats, just be aware if you see someone board the train who needs the seat, you're gonna have to give it up. Please give it up. Please be respectful. Lastly, a few words of warning. First, be careful about accidentally boarding an express train. It can be really confusing to tell which are local and which are express. Most lines are not going to really have express trains that you're going to need to worry about, but in general, I would recommend sticking with what your app tells you, like what time the train will be there at, because trains in Japan are on time, always. If they are not, they will apologize for it, and there will be like bright red flashing letters on the sign, but yeah, be careful. Also, let's say you're out late at night. Trains in Tokyo stop running around somewhere between 11:30 and 12:30, depending on where you need to go and what line. And they're not gonna start running again until 4:30 or 5, so be careful. Or you're gonna have an expensive cab ride or be stuck. Finally, very importantly, if you are traveling to the countryside, pay very, very, very close attention to the train schedule. Trains are very infrequent in the countryside. It could range from every half hour for a place that's not that countryside to 3 or 4 hours. Plan your trip very carefully. Also, these trains usually do not accept Suica. You're gonna have to bring cash and buy a paper ticket. And if you're rural enough, some countryside trains are actually going to only be run by like, they're called one-man train. So they're going to be very small trains. You actually board, you take a boarding ticket usually, and then you might need to pay the conductor himself when you get off the train. Depends where you're getting on and off. But this is only for very countryside ones, not in the city. All right, okay, that was a very long list. I included as many things as I could think of, but let me know down below if you have any more questions or anything else you'd like explained. And remember to check out the description for links to travel related things. And if you want to try out getting an Omiage box, make sure you check out the link down below. Really good food and a great way to taste like traditional Japan at home. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel for more content about my life here in Japan, and I will see you guys back here again next week as always. Bye!